everybody. We'll wait a few more seconds just for the others to join, and then we are good to start. Thank you. Okay, I think we are good to start, right? Once again, thank you all. Good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to our webinar. It's a real pleasure to have you here, and thank you for taking your time to do this. I am Almedina Dodic. I am project assistant for the Global Initiative, respectively, for the Southeastern Europe Observatory. For those that do not know us, the Global Initiative is an independent civil society organization based in Geneva, in Switzerland, but with a network of observatories around the world. We are dedicated to exposing the harms caused by organized crime, but also effecting and fostering more effective approaches to disrupt illicit economies. As of November 25, the organization comprises of 140 staff members, 14 regional observatories, 3 country observatories, but also with a large producement of more than 160 publications annually. Today's topic is the environmental crime, one of the fastest growing and most profitable forms of transnational organized crime. This webinar will primarily focus on the newly released GI-TOC report, Unveiling Green Crimes, Environmental Crime in the Western Balkans, the first comparative regional study examining the full scope of environmental criminality and governance challenges in the region. But we also want to highlight the emerging trends, share field insights from across the region, and open a dialogue on priority areas for future research and policy action. The environmental crime ranks as the 3rd largest criminal activity globally. Its consequences are far-reaching, damaging ecosystems, undermining public health, fueling corruption, but also weakening already fragile institutions. The Western Balkans is no exception to these global trends. According to the Global Initiative, all major forms of environmental crime, ranging from pollution, illegal logging, and waste trafficking to wildlife trafficking, forestry, and fishery crimes, are present across the region. Although all 6 Western Balkan country economies have established environmental legislation, implementation remains notably weak. Enforcement gaps, a lack of public awareness, insufficient institutional capacity, but also the persistent perception of environmental crime as a low priority offense continue to hinder meaningful progress. About the report, we'll talk Anessa Agovic a bit later, but now I would like to give the floor to our colleague Simone, who will tell more on the EcoSolve program that the Global Initiative is realizing and that has been specifically designed to monitor the illicit online environmental trade, extract useful and digestible data. Simone is a thematic lead who works across the organization on environmental crime, advising, conducting, and leading research projects, and advocating externally for effective responses. She leads the work of the Market Monitoring and Friction Unit, which uses digital technology, including machine learning enabled processes, to understand and respond to illegal online marketing of wildlife products. Simone, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Medina. It's a pleasure to be on this panel today and to be speaking to this audience. I'm very excited to see this report come out. I think many people know GI-TOC already for our work on The more classic organized crime topics work on drugs, armed trafficking, human trafficking, corruption, particularly in this region of the world. But environmental crime has really been part of our mandate from the very beginning, because the organization recognized early on that organized crime doesn't just exploit people, it also exploits ecosystems, natural resources, and our commons. As Al-Medina mentioned, with often enormous profits and profound social costs. I think there are a couple of comments I would just like to make around, where the agenda around environmental crime is right now, and how sort of what's happening in the Balkans, maybe fits into that bigger picture. And I think one of those shifts is that environmental crime is less contested as a key organized crime topic than it once was, though still not widely treated as a core organized crime threat. And that's partly why reports like the one that is being launched today sort of help shift that picture. They're really important in showing with granularity how global trends manifest locally, documenting how underreported crimes that are actually taking place are, and how rarely they are enforced. And that really helps policymakers and law enforcement to take fuller account of the harms. We do see environmental crime being increasingly recognized at the multilateral level, including in a recent G20 resolution, recognizing the serious threat that environmental crimes poses to a range of G20 country objectives. And we also follow, including through the EcoSolve project, a process that is underway with the UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, where an independent expert group is assessing whether new protocols may be needed to support states to tackle these challenges more effectively. That's an ongoing process. That independent expert group met earlier this year and will meet again in February, producing recommendations about whether that protocol process should go ahead. And it could become a significant moment in shaping the legal architecture for countries tackling these issues, including countries in this region. It's been mentioned, but we rate this as such an important global threat, not only for the environmental effects of environmental crimes, but also for their social harms. We see these crimes accompanied by corruption almost everywhere that they take place, and corruption that can be so severe that it hollows out state institutions and undermines the rule of law, even weakens democratic accountability. We also see really terrible instances of labor exploitation and coercion and violence associated with particular environmental crimes. And they contribute to a very tragic global pattern of threats and attacks against environmental defenders, which may also be something that comes up in this conversation today. I think that this report makes clear that there's a wide range of crimes that are happening in the region, and that many of them are happening with near impunity. And that really underscores an essential point that environmental crime requires more than legislation on paper. It requires strong institutions who are engaged. It requires cross-border cooperation. It requires transparency and data, and the meaningful involvement of civil society and affected communities. Our flagship initiative at GI-TOC is EcoSolve, a 4-year EU-funded project mandated to provide innovative and technologically enabled responses to environmental crime. We are tackling some of these core drivers through work in 4 areas. One is delivering a global multi-pronged response to online wildlife trafficking through our global monitoring system, which I'll say more about in a moment. Another is promoting and supporting technological innovation and technology, and we have run 2 grant processes now, which will in total fund 6 different projects, which are bringing extremely interesting technological solutions to frontline application in countering environmental crime. We are also working, as mentioned, in raising ambition at the multilateral level, including advocating for improvements to global legal frameworks and international cooperation. And lastly, a large area of the work is in working directly with communities affected by environmental crime, providing funding that goes directly to ground level, hosting dialogues and helping connect their efforts where it's possible with larger state responses. The global monitoring system that I mentioned is how we collect the data that's on our website. You can access that website at ecosolve.eco and explore and play with that data around wildlife trafficking and online markets. The monitoring system is made up of nodes in multiple countries. They are using manual monitoring and open source intelligence techniques, as well as AI-enabled workflows to track wildlife trading across e-commerce and social platforms, and to provide intelligence to support national law enforcement and regulators. There are many aims with the system, which is already producing both interesting data, actionable intelligence, and direct support. But really, we want to encourage coordinated national interventions that can genuinely disrupt transnational operations. I'd lastly like to mention the Impact platform. This is Impact stands for the European Multidisciplinary Platform Against Criminal Threats. It's an important framework, I think, for the broader discussion. It's a platform that enables EU member states to identify and jointly respond to major organized crime threats. And since 2017, environmental crime has been recognized as one of these priority threats. The next Impact cycle runs from 2026 to 2027, and for the first time, several Balkan countries will be participating in the environmental crime priority area as important EU partners. And also through EcoSolve, the GI-TOC is supporting this work by driving an operational action on crime prevention focused on illegal waste and wildlife flows across and through Europe. And I'm pleased to see that Montenegro will be one of the participating countries, and also in the near neighborhood, Bulgaria. I think more broadly, in the last few years, we've seen quite remarkable advances in European law and policy on environmental crime, including an updated environmental crime directive to the Council of Europe Convention on environmental crime, which opened for signature yesterday. And these offer, potentially models for states in the Western Balkans, and for those aiming for EU accession, potentially an important area where alignment would be expected. I will just close off by saying that for me, this report does more than document challenges. It also points to opportunities for coordinated action, for strengthening legal and institutional frameworks, and for deepened collaboration across borders. And my hope is really that it sharpens political will and strengthens alliances necessary to protect people and nature in the region. So a huge congratulations to the authors, and really looking forward to the discussion that we'll have about it.
Thank you very much, Simone. We hope that too. And thank you for the work that you do on this field as well. Now it's the time for the author of the report, Anesa Agovic, that is an analyst and the field coordinator for Bosnia and Herzegovina with the GI-TOC. She leads the work on IFFs, environmental crime, but also organized crime networks. Anesa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Almedina. It is a pleasure to be here with it today, especially with colleagues, and to share what we have done previously on environmental crime in the Western Balkans. Just a second to share the screen. Sorry.
Until Anessa finds out how to share the screen, I would like to ask you all to put your questions in the chat box down below. We will try to answer them either in written or by answering them live after all the presentations are done. Thank you.
Is it all right?
Yeah, we see it, yes.
Okay. During previous time, we have been working on environmental crime in the Western Balkans. I think my screen just froze. Just a minute, please. Until it got back together, I will just note that within our presentation, it is very important to say that civil society within the Western Balkans provided us a significant support. And it means that especially field work was supported by them. And in our report, we have accented which the civil society organizations has contributed within the report. I will just ask Almedina because to share my report, to share my presentation in sense because I'm having issues with sharing. It keeps freezing down. Until Almedina shares the report, I will continue to speak so we don't lose time with our participants. While I mentioned in the beginning, this year, I mean, just 2 weeks ago, we have published an OC index, Organized Crime Index report, and we have also reflected that in our report. It is important to note that this year was actually, we can say, a turning point in sense of to understand how organized crime is evolving, in sense of including shifts induced by the geopolitics, economic turbulence, technological change, and of course, environmental stress. In the first slide that we're going to share in a few seconds, we have seen the ranking of the Western Balkan countries in the Organized Crime Index in regard to fauna and flora, non-renewable resource items, and of course, flora crimes, because those are the relevant rankings within the environmental crime. In that sense, we have seen how much one countries to another's are higher, or in the sense what is the global average to European average within the Western Balkan average as well. We have to conclude that the Western Balkan average is pretty high, and with the average across these categories. And we have seen that the region is significantly above within the global and the European within these categories. It is necessary to say that high scores within the flora and fauna and resource crime of Western Balkan countries also are a clear red flag, in sense of that environmental crime is not a marginal issue, but it is deeply embedded within the criminal market in that understanding. We have to say that also the crimes are diversifying in the region, and it is important to accent that like flora crimes are involving fauna reflect like poaching, illicit trade, and in possession of subspecies that are covered also. And later on, we will reflect on which exactly specific environmental crimes are being reflected within this issue on the report. But overall, how we see this environmental crime is actually like the big problem. We have seen that it is growing, but it is not the biggest problem in the Western Balkans. Despite, we can say, better laws, the enforcement struggles due to lack of clarity between the administrative and criminal offenses, and as well as weak institutional coordination. We have to accent that compared to other criminal markets in the Western Balkans, such as drug trafficking, human trafficking, migrant smuggling, and others, environmental crime actually appears to also have a lower prevalence in the region. But according to other statistics, environmental crime is acknowledged as the third largest form of the criminal activity globally, which certain growth of 5 to 7% on the annual level. Law enforcement agencies in the Western Balkans prioritize environmental crime less than other criminal offenses. Within, for example, in Europol distinction of criminal networks, we have seen that there were 7 identified in specialized environmental crime, 4 in waste and in general pollution, while 3 in the wildlife crime. There was also some links to where criminals are using shared smuggling routes for drugs, firearms, human trafficking. They also use it for the smuggling of the wildlife. I would say that one important link to as one of the most lucrative transnational crimes that bills up to hundreds billions of dollars annually. It has been also classified by the FATF, environmental crimes, as predicate crimes offenses for money laundering. And it calls also both on the public and the private sectors to actually improve the detection of financial flows, which are linked to the environmental crimes. I hope we have a fixed issue with the slides. Next slide, please. As said in the beginning, we have supported 6 civil society organizations that have been working on the Western Balkans environmental crime and has conducted on the national level research. The actually main objective with supporting these civil society organizations was to build this capacity to understand and to combat environmental crime as a form of organized crime. And the idea was because the wider public is often not aware of the extent to which environmental crimes affect and how much affect the society, and actually how much is in general hindering the development and growth. Next slide, please. In the overall methodology, we have conducted over 110 interviews, which was gathered within the civil society, media, academia, local governments, officials, that all these institutions and agencies that are relevant to environmental crime. And as well, we conducted interviews with the private sector and international regional organizations. Around the important component of the research is that actually around 35% of interviews was actually the victims of environmental crime in sense of vulnerable groups that have been spoken for our research in sense of understanding also the consequences of the environmental crime, which is often seen as a form of crime which is victimless. We have assessed the legislation, enforcement in the practice, and also challenges as well as the gaps. And we tried to have a report in sense of not only to inform, but also to promote and raise awareness on the issue of the environmental crime in the Western Balkans. Next slide. Within our understanding, the different types of the environmental crimes is actually essential to spotlight what is the issue of the environmental crimes, and also to comprehend the prevalence of certain crimes in difference to others. There is very little research in general on this topic. There was conducted one by the OSCE before, which had mapped certain hotspots of the Western Balkans environmental crime. but also global initiative research that we are now presenting focused specifically on the criminal markets and the illicit activities, and we try to analyze criminal dynamics and actors that actually sometimes they don't appear in the climate policy assessments, but also provide complementary but more targeted perspective on the region's environmental vulnerabilities. Within all the countries, we identified certain hotspots where you can see which hotspot is actually being struck by a certain environmental crime type. And the idea is to understand also what is happening in which of the country. So, for example, we have in Montenegro, Skadar Lake, which is under pressure from illegal construction, up to Bosnia and Herzegovina. Different parts of the country is struck by different types of organized environmental crime. And overall, in some cases, media reported that there is a common threat on the illegal mining as well, hazardous waste shipments, soil spills, and untreated refinery discharge. Next slide, please. As you can see, the types of environmental crimes in the Western Balkans have been mapped out as environmental pollution, including pollution of air, water, and soil, illegal trade, the storage and production of hazardous waste and substances. Environmental crime is as widespread in the Western Balkans, with, for example, Serbia experiencing some of the highest level of air pollution in the world. River pollution is prevalent, for example, in Albania, Kosovo, and Bosnia and Herzegovina as well. Illegal logging is also prevalent in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and Kosovo. And for example, wildlife trafficking is specifically prevalent in the Montenegro. Next slide. In understanding pollution, we have seen that stands out as one of the most visible and pervasive forms of environmental crime, and it's frequently reported by the local communities and documented across multiple countries. Those threats of pollution come from, as said, legal waste dumping, and also that contaminates rivers and drinking water, where in some cities it's not drinkable at all, to, for example, industrial emissions that are actually degrading the air quality. Pollution in the region can be broadly identified in two types, like widespread pollution in sense of air quality and in the sense of localized hotspots like dump sites. Here in the picture, you see that in the Drina River in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is actually on the border within several countries, has become polluted with the garbage and plastic waste as a result of poor disposal practices in the country of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and of course, the neighboring Serbia and Montenegro. Although the Western Balkans, like the region, is very rich in natural resources, it is heavily burdened with the pollution hotspots. And as a result, the region is overall facing some of the Europe's, we can say, most urgent pollution challenges. Next slide. Waste crimes. Illegal waste in management or waste crimes have been involves the improper collection, transportation, recovery, and disposal of waste, because often the underreporting is a major issue. Here is one of the documented examples of the Italian waste that ended in Drvar in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The illegal waste was was dumped in the municipalities Drvar, Bosansko Grahovo, and within 3 cantons. And despite having the necessary permits, the company lacked waste recycling facilities, for example, in this specific case, and the authorities had issued the permits without due diligence. We have seen, to go back to the Simone's reflection, that usually this environmental crime is also linked to the corruption with officials. In this context, waste crimes were linked to Italy and were present in the Balkans due to also region's geographic location, the corruption, and as well as a profit potential. Next slide. On the air pollution, as mentioned, and also colleague Nicola will speak more specifically on this case. We are aware that Western Balkans are facing severe air pollution, and especially during this period, like within the winter months, on the focus with the regional capitals that are ranking usually among Europe's highest polluted cities, and even on the 10 most polluted cities. Within the countries, especially stricken is Serbia, Montenegro, and of course Bosnia and Herzegovina. But to accent that even in such situation, there was a specific case within Montenegro where we can say local community have won in specific case, in accent that in 2024 there was a legal case where actually a resident of Pljevlja, one of the Montenegro's most polluted cities, filed a lawsuit against the state. In 2025, actually the court in Podgorica ruled in favor of this citizen, determining that the state is actually responsible for the air pollution and that has violated constitutional rights of a citizen to a healthy environment. This is, we can say, a specific action against such situation in the country. Next slide, please. On the water pollution as a significant in the Western Balkan issue, it is also a public health concern that is in majority of cases exacerbated by the weak institutional response. There is also growing industrial activity and the involvement of the organized crime. It is interesting that as a picture before, it was on the Drina River. This now picture is Fjerza Lake in Kukes. If it is accented that, for example, how important actions from the local communities can affect in the link with the corruption on the sense of understanding the overall issue of the environmental crime. While, for example, that floating debris before it was mentioned on Drina River, it is actually, for example, a reminder that even within 3 countries, this issue has not been jointly resolved. For example, in Serbia, there was water poisoning by mining, and there was also cancer rates and the life expectancy impacted that was shown by several researchers. Next on understanding is wildlife trafficking. Next slide. As mentioned, Montenegro was one of the largest hotspots in this environmental crime specific. And it is necessary also to accent that besides Montenegro, there is Bosnia and Herzegovina and Albania. On the overall issue of, for example, of European Union, it is a huge market, and different research reports showed certain, like in thousands of wildlife seizures, which is interesting. In Montenegro, even organized crime in sense of environmental crime was delivered within the use of social media, and we can say it was even in some cases publicly shown how the sale of certain animals are being conducted. And overall in Albania and Montenegro, illegal hunting and poisoning is also widespread. On Bosnia and Herzegovina and Kosovo, they struggle with weak legal definitions and poor interagency coordination, which is actually, we can say, making an issue for further prosecution. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, also as noted, songbird hunting is seen as a notable increase in these recent years, and it has been also fueled by the involvement of organized crime groups from Italy and the rising number of Italian nationals engaging in hunting tourism, where many of these individuals actually present themselves as tourists, but are actually involved in illegal poaching activities. Next slide. On the fishery crimes, overall, it is important to note that illegal and unreported and unregulated fishing causes global economic losses, which is estimated to tens of billions of annually. And along with the illegal logging and wildlife trade, illegal and unreported and unregulated fishing contributes significantly to the degradation of terrestrial and marine ecosystems, and it's posing a particular threat to endangered species. On the Balkans issue, illegal hunting and fishing are especially persistent challenges in North Macedonia. While hunting and fishing are regulated through a licensing system with designated seasons, authorities often apprehend poachers operating outside these illegal parameters. In cases of Serbia, there was 117 illegally caught starved fish seized near Smederevo also. And we have seen the cases where the inspectors are being bribed to ignore this overfishing in certain countries. Next slide. On the last example of the environmental crime in the Western Balkans, we have seen the forestry crimes. For example, this is a photo from the field in the mountains nearby Sarajevo. In environmental crime, experts are, we can say, particularly concerned about the forests in the Western Balkans, where illegal logging is reaching unprecedented levels due to soaring demands for the timber. Major obstacle, for example, to forest protection is the poor coordination between forestry institutions and the law enforcement agencies, where we include the police and the judiciary. The problem of illegal logging even extends to neighboring countries, including Montenegro and Bosnia and Herzegovina, where we've seen that in Montenegro, illegal logging is the most prevalent form of the environmental crime, causing financial losses, even up to 20 billion euros to concession management of forests, and it's affecting nationwide. Bosnia and Herzegovina is facing a more complex situation where actually illegal logging operations have shifted to remote areas and often involve the complicity of corrupt local authorities and inspectors. In the mountains around Sarajevo, as I said, we have seen these patterns around Jahorina, Bjelašnica, and Visočica, where these illegal logging activities happen usually on weekends and especially Wednesday on the non-working days. Next slide. On the Western Balkan countries, we have seen that most have committed in the paper, and while Kosovo, for example, still lacks the full legal framework, but the major barrier, as said, is seeing this type of crime as victimless, and weakening the enforcement and the accountability. On next slide, wait, just to go back one more second on this slide. On the issue of the environmental crime enforcement, overall in the Southern Europe, we have seen that there are significant challenges. Within the Western Balkan countries that are working on the EU alignment, we have seen we can say, different levels of preparedness and enforcement in the 6 countries. But it is important to say that within each of the country, there are certain distinctive obstacles. And for example, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, environmental crimes are increasingly attractive due to lenient penalties. And there's a common perception that environmental offenses are not actually having direct harm to the human lives. The problem also extends to the businesses, particularly in construction, the importation of goods, energy projects, and municipal waste management. If there's, for example, during our research, we have seen cases where even individuals who are reporting on improper waste management, it's very difficult to have somebody in the field from the officials to come and to report and actually to resolve the issue. If you don't have, for example, support of media and coverage, that is even more difficult to have the attention of the relevant institutions. Next slide. I will have a short, we can say, distinction on this Western Balkan overview. We have seen here in these slides what countries are actually doing in combating environmental crimes. within each of the country, what legal actions have been noted, what regulations are upheld, but also what, for example, certain countries have done differently. For example, in terms of technological advancement, Albania have launched a tool within the Digital Commissariat. There's a mobile app since 2021 to actually facilitate reporting of environmental crimes, including water and soil pollution, illegal dumping and noise pollution. This practice have been noted here, and it eases up the reporting. On the other hand, we have seen that Bosnia and Herzegovina have actually made a significant step forward in sense of adopting legislation. But in this country's complex political system, environmental issues are often managed within the lower levels of government, including entity or even cantonal and municipal level, which shows the level of, we can say, prioritization in the country. On the Kosovo's example, we have seen that the constitution recognizes a healthy environment as a fundamental human right, and it requires institutions to play a key role in the environmental protection by considering environmental impacts in the decision-making process. Montenegro also have been demonstrating the global environmental standards by, we can say, ratification of several treaties, but the greater public participation and we can say more focused and financial sustainability framework, like the consistent state budget allocations and long-term funding mechanisms for this type of projects are not being handled. On the local experts in North Macedonia, for example, overall professors and civil society academia, they called for a specific creation of a specialized police unit on the ecological crimes. And interestingly, that in 2023 in North Macedonia, ecocide has been introduced as a criminal offense, which is carrying actually severe penalties for significant environmental damage caused by intentionally or through negligence. On the Serbian side, we have seen that in order to improve environmental monitoring and citizen engagement, the ministry have been upheld the Green Reaction application in 2022, which is similar to Albania, like a digital platform that is also encouraging public reporting environmental issues. And only in 2 years, there was more than 6,000 reports submitted. And in the end, the last slide, please. We have seen that in majority of cases, civil society have been playing a crucial role, especially in media and the activists, non-formal groups. They have been leading a fight against environmental crime, and they were crucial in raising awareness, and especially in reporting violations and pushing for policy changes. But of course, they need more support, funding, and resources. And in that case, we have seen that there is not enough support in the Western Balkans. There is media outlets in the region that have been, and also grassroots groups, like we supported Pokret Tvrđava in Serbia or Citizens Channel in Albania. They have been leading advocacy, and citizens in a lot of cases, why they don't report, we have seen that they are feared of the retaliation when reporting certain violations, especially when there was involved some powerful actors. And a lot of cases in the environmental crime go undocumented due to actually poor institutional response and the legal ambiguity. And on the other hand, a resilient response to environmental crime actually requires collective courage, knowledge sharing, and stronger enforcement. There was also a need that launching public awareness campaigns to actually empower citizens in understanding the environmental crime and the impact on their lives. Thank you. Sorry for having more time.
Thank you very much, Anessa, and thank you for the detailed presentation. In fact, a few days ago, I just remembered I saw some viral photos of from the Albanian and the Croatian coast, showing how, I mean, the sea had washed large amounts of garbage back onto the shore, and that was, in fact, a reminder that nature always returns to us what we give to it. So let's hope the recommendations guide real action, but also strengthen our efforts to address the environmental crime in the region. So once again, thank you, and thank you to all of the consultants and the colleagues that have worked on this project and this research. Now I would like to give the floor to Vanya Stokic, who is a journalist focused on reporting on human rights, including environmental issues. For the past 14 years, she has been the editor and director of the e-Traffica portal, which while remaining dedicated to the field reporting as well. She has received more than 30 awards, including the EU Award for Investigative Journalism, the Serjan Aleksic Award, the UNICEF Award, and many others. In addition to her journalistic work, she serves as a mentor to young journalists, particularly those coming from media deserts across Bosnia and Herzegovina. Vanya, your investigations reveal that many forms of environmental crime in the Western Balkans are systematic and long-standing. What key insights can you share with us? And more specifically, what key insights can you share regarding the quail poaching and the broader dangers currently threatening the wild horses? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Almedina, and thank you for having me here and giving me a chance to present our research. Last year, my media did a cross-border story financed by Journalism Fund. We investigated poaching of quails in Bosnia. As Anessa said in her presentation, we have a problem in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which lasts for the last 20 years or something. We have a lot of hunting agencies who work like tourist agencies, but only for hunters. So they bring hunters mostly from Italy, and they present them here as tourists, but they actually come here for illegal hunting of quails. And although they have all the papers, all the permits, they use one illegal device called decoy, and its purpose is to play bird sounds and to send signal to birds that on the ground it is safe and there is a lot of food and they should come. That is the way they bring a lot of birds on a small place, and they make it easy for Italian hunters, poachers to kill a lot of birds in maybe an hour or two. And this way of hunting, specifically quails, is a big European problem, not only Bosnian. Statistics say that around 160,000 of quails are killed this way every year in Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro, Croatia, and Macedonia. So it stands for 3% of European population of quails. 3% of population dies every year. And now, after 20 years of that practice, we can see a huge decline of number of quails in nature. Actually, last year, we did this investigation. I was involved. My colleague Aydin Kamber, also a journalist, our colleague from Netherlands, Ingrid Hekama, and colleague from Italy, General Kaliva. We basically, I will share my screen just to illustrate what I'm talking about. We actually went to Livno field. It is the largest field in Bosnia, and it is the most important habitat for birds in our country. And Italian poachers like this field a lot because they have a lot of birds there. So our task was to go there and find those illegal devices and connect them to Italians. we went there last year in August during the peak of hunting season. As you can see, this field is huge. It is 60 kilometers long. And we went there with several precise locations sent to us by activists who deal with this problem for last, I don't know, 20 years. And they gave us a lot of actual locations where we could find those devices. Those are hunting grounds, which are mostly used. We had to drive around.
I think we have technical issues with Vanya, or is it on my side?
Do you hear me?
Okay,
Everything
yes, we
goes?
can hear you now, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, continue, please.
The thing is, this device is located in a field and it starts playing the sound in the evening at 10 p.m. and it works until early morning. And we had to find the device in order to know where to find poachers in the morning. The only time when we could find a device is during the night. So for several nights, we would drive through the field from one point to another, get out of the car and just listen for the sound of the decoy. And it took a lot of time, a lot of effort. We were driving for 400 kilometers per night. And it was really exhausting. As you can see on next picture, we spent a couple of nights sleeping in the car. But in the end, we had concrete results. This is our colleague Gianluca Caliva from Italy with some special audio equipment. In the end, we managed to find decoy deep in the field. It was 1 in the morning, 1 a.m. And we documented it, put it back. We didn't touch it, not to leave our fingerprints. And in the morning, we came back to the same spot because we knew that we will find Italian poachers there. We used the drone to film everything. You can see here one man in the field. There were 2 Italian hunters with dogs and 1 local guide who brought them there. After documenting everything, we called the police and they actually came and went with us into the hunting ground. They took this case really seriously. I need to say that police is not really in charge of cases. It's our first
Vanya froze again. Okay, you're back.
Okay. Okay, technical problems all day. So I have to say that police is not really in charge for this kind of crimes. Hunting inspector is person in charge. Police is just there to make some kind of technical support for him. And what we saw on the ground is that police really took us seriously. They came with police officers, crime inspectors, forensics. They collected the evidence in the field. They took the device we found. And you can see here, they are counting killed quails. But in the end, also hunting inspector came. We gave police our materials, our whatever we recorded, and we hoped that we will help them to punish poachers, because we had info from the local court that for the last 20 years, no one was punished for these kind of crimes. And we waited for the end of this investigation. One inspector crime inspector, he told us they even found clear fingerprint on the device, so they could connect device with a precise person. After a few months, we asked hunting inspector what happened, were poachers punished, and what is the punishment? And he only answered us that they couldn't prove that they used that device, and they are went back to Italy without any consequences. This case left such a bad impression on us, although activists actually warned us and said at some point they will just let this case go and you will see it clearly. And we actually witnessed that. The good thing is, although for me, hunting inspector didn't do his job quite well. And my impression is that he was told by someone, his boss or someone bigger than him, that he needs just to let it go, because this is huge business. These hunting agencies make a lot of profit on Italian poachers, and there is a lot of money involved. At the other hand, police is still really interested to do this kind of actions. They even called us later, me and my colleague, and asked, are we interested to come again to that specific field and find decoys again with them, with their help? So they actually approached us and wanted to initiate some kind of cooperation. We didn't do it yet, but we are thinking maybe do it next year during the hunting season. This is one example of wildlife crimes in Bosnia. I'm really interested in poaching and trafficking of wild animals. Now we are trying to do the story of hunting and trafficking of songbirds in Bosnia, but we also did this year a documentary about wild horses, also in Livno. There are more than 1,000 of wild horses living in the mountain, and they are good for local tourism. Local people, local agencies earn a lot of money on bringing tourists to see the horses, to feed them. But at the same time, no one takes care of the horses. They are not protected. They have no care by the local government. We actually, during making the film, we found 2 injured horses who could recover. They didn't need to be killed, but there was no address that we could call to help them. For 4 days, we were calling different institutions, NGOs, veterinaries. No one wanted to come. They were saying, like, that is not our job, and there is too many horses in the mountain anyway, like those 2 can die. For me, that is really hypocrite, because a local community has a lot of use of those horses, but they don't want to give anything back to them. And also at the same time, those horses are target for local criminals who catch them, sell them to some people in the village for to work in the field, and they are also being killed on the mountain. And we have footages of that. That documentary is not public yet, but it will be in a couple of months. We have footages of killed horses on a field with missing parts of their body because someone wanted to feed their dogs with free meat. So this is actually our reality, and what is happening in our neighborhood, and people in Bosnia don't know about it. Poaching of quails is taking place for the last 20 years. Catching and killing of horses is also taking space for the last 20 years or something. So we need to bring more light to these stories and to call institutions for responsibility, because at the moment they have none.
Thank you very much, Vanya. I mean, thank you for all you do, and thank you for speaking up on this issue and on this topic. And I personally am looking forward to the documentary and all the other work that you will be continue doing in the field. I would like to now give the floor to Nikola Krstic. He has extensive experience in political theory, public policy, and environmental advocacy. He is the co-founder of the Initiative for a Democratic Society and the civic movement Tvrđava. Nikola has worked in several multinational food industry companies and has contributed as an author to Nova Ekonomija. He's a frequent speaker at conferences and public events across Serbia with professional interest spanning political theory, elections, and electoral systems, political communication, and the intersection of ecology and politics. Nikola, from your experience, what role do civil society organizations play on the front line of environmental protection, and how the CSOs can tackle green crime, I mean, despite the limited resources available?
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nikola Krstic, and I'm a political scientist by education. It is an honor to speak in front of you today. I'm here in two roles, actually. First, I speak as a researcher who was involved in the national report on environmental crime in Serbia. Through this work, I have examined how environmental laws are violated, how institutional response in Serbia, and how these issues affect communities across the country. Second, I speak as a direct participant because I'm also an environmental activist, the national environmental activist in Serbia, who has personally experienced many of the pressures I will describe in my talk. In my personal work, I have been attacked like activist. I have been attacked, arrested 2 times, targeted by the certain regime media, simply because I try to defend the public interest and my hometown and my country and the actually environment in my country. So today I'm sharing both professional findings and the personal experience actually of my work. Let me briefly describe the main challenges environmental activists face in Serbia. First of all, activists face intimidation and pressure because maybe you know, when I said ecology, it's not only about ecology issue, it's also about the politics, and that's a big correlation in between the ecology and the politics in Serbia, because we have a problem with the authoritarian regime and also with some projects, international projects in Serbia, especially Chinese projects, which means it's a global politics also. So the externalities of these projects are my daily life and the life of my family. As I said, activists face intimidation and pressure when they speak against harmful projects like mining, pollution, illegal construction. They often receive threats, face online harassment, or are confronted by individuals linked to companies or local authorities. These actions are meant to create the fear and the limit public actually involvement. The second, there are SLAP lawsuits. The many of my colleagues from the environmental field had a problem with the SLAP lawsuits. These lawsuits are not intended to win on the legal grounds. Their purpose is to silence activists by forcing them to spend time and money on defense, and the defense on the court, the defense in the media, on the social media, and in the neighborhood. And when you try to defend yourself and to tell everyone, no, I'm not the foreign spy, I'm not a CIA agent, I just want the clear air in my country and my city, it's hard every day to defend yourself. And that's a big problem with the whole environmental field in Serbia. Many activists had the same problems. Actually, the main goal is to discourage criticism and public debate. Third problem we face is a serious problems with the access to environmental information. 10 times ago, I was in Geneva on some Aarhus Convention meeting and speak about that problem because Serbia ratified the Aarhus Convention, which means every citizen in Serbia had have access on information in environmental field. And when you try to find some information, the state are silent or the local government is silent, and that's the problem because in many cases it's not only about ecology, it's about health. And in my report I said that actually the concept of environmental crime manifests itself in all mentioned fields, and but the most pronounced in the field of environmental pollution, since such negative externalities directly affect the health of citizens. In Serbia, according to a study by the World Health Organization, 6,600 people die every year as a result of air pollution. And that's the big problem for a small country as Serbia. Particularly affected category of the population are citizens who live in towns and villages next to the industrial production, as well as mining activities. Environmental pollution is largely caused by the activities of the industrial facilities in Serbia, which especially in Bor and Majdanpek, it's eastern Serbia, where the Chinese company Zijin, it's a company of mines of copper and gold. In my hometown Smederevo, where the Chinese iron works HBIS or Hestil, which produce the steel. And in Lazarevac, in Kostolac, coal mines, in Obrenovac, the thermal plant, and every city had the industrial problem. But actually, the problem is, I will find the data, yes. The problem is there is a many reported person in Serbia on environmental crimes, but not too many fines and penalties, and not too many prison for that people who breaks the law. First, when it comes to reporting criminal acts in the field of environmental crime in Serbia, environmental inspectors and other inspections do not submit enough criminal reports against perpetrators of criminal acts. There are many factors that influence this, starting with the corruption through the insufficient capacity of the state administration and incompetent inspectors and many other problems. But also I will speak some data about the total number of reported environmental criminal acts in the 2021. Actually, the 80% of whole structure of environmental crime is a timber thief. Why is that? Because the timber thief is easy to, how to say, to expose, because you need the logistic, the manpower, you need the whole to do this job, and that's easy to expose. And also the people want to report the people who are timber thieves. The problem on industrial pollution is the many of people don't know actually that they have a problem. It's a problem of public awareness on air pollution, and that's our job, like civil society, to raising awareness every day on air pollution, the water pollution, soil pollution, and as I said, that's our job. And as I said, actually the 78% of criminal reports it's a timber thief, and there are reason why this felony is predominant. Namely, the crime of timber thief is easily proven, as I said. Furthermore, it's not easy to perform because it requires the manpower, mechanization, logistics, so it's easier to detect it. And this crime is often reported by the citizens themselves, because their private property is invaded and the forest is cut down. And for the end, I will say something about my interviews with real people on the ground, with people with ecological problems. I will read just one sentence for one gentleman from the village of Ostrag near Bor. It's an industrial problem with the Chinese company Zijin. He has been actually the chairman of the village since 1976. Yes, 1976. He said, "We have a big problems with the environmental pollution, but an even bigger problem is that they want to evict us all of us from the Ostrag, Krive, Slatina, Metovnica, Buče, because of the needs of the mine. It can be that way. People are dying, many of them from the cancer caused by the dust from the mine. People's private farmlands are trespassed by bulldozers. Forests are cut down without asking. They steal our Kriveska river from us. They change its flow. U.S. country gave everything to the Chinese, and they will leave a wasteland behind." So that's one really sad part of the interview and the story. And actually, when you speak in Serbia, especially in the eastern Serbia, about the experience of the environmental crime, they have the same story. Also, one lady from the same village, she said, "The agreement was to keep our river clean. However, no one complied. They immediately began to release reagents and sludge. The river changed colors. It's completely dead now. They are moving the course of the Kriveska River without asking. They are stealing the river from us. That is environmental crime. They do not have permission to do that. They cut the forest without the permission as they see fit. The wood is packed on private tracks and taken away. My brother had an animal farm. He gave up a lot of his cattle died." So
Thanks, Nicola. Yeah, I would like you. If you can, wrap it up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I'm, in fact, really sorry. I mean, that is it should not be, but that's something that happens quite often, where the civil society organizations and the and the investigative journalists face real significant challenges. And I'm in real security issues, and that in fact should not be the case, because we shall all together collaborate with the governments as well, and prosecution as well. But thank you very much for your presentation. I would now like to give the floor to Livia Panic-Miletic, who is the chief basic public prosecutor in Subotica in Serbia, and has nearly 3 decades of prosecutorial experience. Alongside her prosecutorial work, she serves as an assistant lecturer at the Faculty of Law for Economy and Justice in Subotica, where she teaches subjects related to organized crime and public administration. Ms. Olivia, what are the key challenges prosecutors face when dealing with environmental crime? This would be like the first question, and definitely you feel free to continue with your presentation.
Thank you. Greetings to all. It's a great honor for me personally and for my prosecutor's office here in Subotica to be together with you today. I will try to be short and to share with you what are the main problems in our work. I made here 12 remarks about what are the common problems. Of course, I will not speak about all 12. I will just mention all of them, but some of them are particularly very specialized for Serbia. Gap between legal framework and practical implementation, we speak all about it. I think we all know what that means. Also, low detection rate and weak inspection services are something that is very, very common here in Serbia, and I have to say, unfortunately. But the third thing I would like to say a few words about it, it's insufficient interinstitutional coordination. Nowadays in Serbia, we have a nice project which has one of the best titles I ever heard in this field on Serbian. It is called Ozelenjavanje pravde. It doesn't sound so nicely on English, because on English it would be something like greenery of justice, but I think it's nice topic. The idea is to solve one of the problems because environmental cases require cooperations of police, of local government units, of specialized agencies, prosecutors' offices, so many people who are working in one case. If we don't have good coordination, if we don't change informations, then it's not good. We multiply our works and the results are not good. So this is something that we need to work on more. Lack of specialized knowledge among prosecutors and judges, nothing new to hear. Challenges in obtaining expert evidence, also not something that is new for all of us. But the six of my remarks are high cost and insufficient budget for investigations. So let me just share with you a short story. In May, with two of my colleagues, prosecutors, I was participating in the very, very nice environmental conference in Praga. And the colleagues from Italy were sharing with us their very, very huge and very successful case. But listening to them, I understood that the complete criminal charge prosecution was quite with lots of expenses. So when they finished their presentation, I asked them who was paying for this. They were a little bit shocked with my questions because they said to me, but the government, of course. And I said, okay, it's not the case in Serbia. Not that we don't have a budget, not that we don't have resources, but this is not enough. And the poor and the sad thing is that we need to find a case in which we will put the money from those budgets to have a good case. And it would be nice if we don't have to make that choice. Difficulty in proving causation and quantifying damage. So who caused that damage? In what extent? That is also a huge problem for me as a prosecutor and for all of my colleagues, because the environmental crime is diffuse, cumulative, graduate, so it's not easy if you're doing that yourself, if you don't have help. Long duration of proceedings is something that I'm, as a prosecutor, not proud of, and also I'm not proud of penal policy and low conviction rates here in Serbia. Fines are low, very low. Suspended sentences are common, which is totally bad. Nobody feels guilty when they come in front of the suspended sentence. Imprisonment is almost none. So rare that it's unbelievable. And, you know, it creates a very bad atmosphere. So low risk, high benefit. So why not? I will pay some fine, which is small, because my benefit doing wrong thing is bigger. So why I didn't do any kind of crime? Of course, in huge cases, there is a political economic pressure. But for me as a prosecutor, inadequate data collection and lack of transparency is also very important question. As a prosecutor, as a police officer, when something happens, I need to have a quick information. I need to have a good database place where I can have immediate information. Who is doing this? Who is doing that? Where can I put this animal? In which zoo? So who can help me here? Who can go out? So I need that information in half an hour, not 4 hours searching in internet, trying to find my colleagues who can help me. Can you imagine what happens in water or field after 4 hours? Almost all evidences are gone. So we need that database put together. Nicola was explaining that limited public awareness and weak whistleblower protection. That is also a huge problem here. Citizens, NGOs, employees often hesitate to report environmental crime because they don't know what is waiting for them on the other side of the law. It shouldn't happen, okay? We have to work on the same side. And even then, in Serbia, we do have 18 criminal offenses. It's a lot. We have a good criminal code. We have a good environmental laws, but we don't put them in practice enough. So there is a huge gap between law and practice. But on the end, let me finish my talk in positive mood, because I want to say a few sentences about the case, which is a huge proud of this prosecutorial office in which I work, and my professional huge pride. We call that case Yellow Bags. So the case started almost accidentally. Nicola lives in the eastern part of Serbia. I live in the northern part of Serbia. It's a beautiful town with the beautiful old buildings in the city center. And of course, with the building where people live. Among those buildings, there was a very, very famous medical facility. But then people were reporting that something is happening around that medical facility. Dogs, cats were gathering in front of that facility, and some waste was taken by those animals. And the citizens, especially moms with their babies in stroll, walking, were quite concerned. Okay, inspection, police, and we entered in that medical facility, and the suspicion was right. The facility has been improperly handling infectious medical waste. If I ask you now, did you have a concern when you are going in some medical facility, where does your blood or anything taken from you goes? Nobody is thinking about it, but there are rules. So there are very special yellow bags in which it has to be put, and we have a very strict rules about it. On the end, what we got? We got the verdict, we got the fine, huge fine, we got the payment of cost. But even before the verdict, even before, the owner and the responsible person in that facility did something very crucial. They correct all the mistakes they did before the inspection. The third important thing is, in this case, is that it resonated in the town. All other medical facilities now said, okay, let us review, are we doing a good job with this medical waste? And the fourth thing was very good. The judgment sent a clear message. Hazardous waste, even if it's small, it is a waste, and it has to be treated how the law says, it's not just a formality. So that is something that I will end. It is a small case with a huge impact in our town, because now we changed the way how people are treating that medical waste. That would be the last remark of me. So let us see, let us turn around ourselves and start with the small cases. Let us raise the awareness of people about pollution, about ecology, and I think then we are on the good path.
Thank you very much, Ms. Prosecutor. I would add to what you said before on the project, ozelenjavanje pravde. I would say, I would translate it to make justice green, maybe
Yes,
again.
yes.
So that would be better. So thank you for that. In fact, we do not have like very much time. I see there are a few questions in the chat box. I would like to ask you, since I have you here, and there is a question that could be relevant for you. Leila Chamjic is asking, are EU's relevant institutions open to prosecuting violations that European actors, most often companies, commit in the Western Balkans? And do they request information from the local CSOs and law enforcement? And is it in return shared with the relevant EU parties? If you can please shortly answer this one.
Can I start first? Yes, we can share informations. Yes, they ask us, and we also are asking. So in the prosecution, as a prosecutor, I can only share informations, but not doing prosecution outside of Serbia. But yes, we can share informations, maybe have joint teams. But as a prosecutor, I can only prosecute here, but I can use legal information from other countries.
Great, thank you very much. The other question, I will only read the ones that are open. So environmental impact for industry, construction, many other domains also use environmental impact waiver is heavily abused. What would be the way to combat it? Can someone please answer this one?
Strict rules, high penalties, and transparency. Because if everybody knows that somebody had convicted and paid a huge fine, I think it is one of the way how we can battle.
Great, thank you very much. And the last one, how strong is the EU's pressure on Western Balkan countries to improve their environmental standards, and how effective are these mechanisms in practice? Anyone on this one?
I think Livia can also respond to it in sense of on the prosecution side, if so. But I would say that, as noted before, that environmental crime is not prioritized, and it's often there are other types of crimes spotlighted. I think the pressure is not high enough, and I think it should be much, we can say, stronger, especially on the side of law enforcement and prosecution, because those institutions, I think, can, combat effectively, and of course, in sense of providing, for example, collaboration within the region are necessary, but also I would say definitely in the sharing knowledge on this topic.
Exactly.
That's why the idea of actually having Simone here and reflecting on the EU perspective, I think it's important as well. Please go ahead, Olivia.
I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, Simone. So Serbia is one of the first countries in region who we put in our law the directive 2024, made in April 2024. So we have very good things, and maybe the first country in the region who did it. But is it enough, just to put it on the paper? So do we have enough knowledge? Do we have enough people, enough information to make it in practice? In this point, I'm not sure.
Simone, and one, maybe the last word also from you and Anessa, if she wants, and let's conclude the webinar. Yes.
Thank you. Just to say thank you, everyone. It's been really fascinating hearing about your different investigations and work and stories, and it's very encouraging as well to hear from people who are doing so much in different ways. I think on this question, I can't really speak to direct pressure. But as I mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, I think it will be interesting to see how there is kind of cross-peer learning through the impact platform and the participation of Balkan countries in the environmental crime priority that's being coordinated by this EU framework. And I would also note that, also for EU member states, there is a process of translating things which are in paper into actual operational procedures and priorities, and that's something that's under constant review also within the EU system, in how a lot of the ambitions of this relatively new legal framework are being actually rolled out in that scenario. So it may also be interesting to see out of those reviews, how it has been possible for states or where they have struggled in meeting those ambitions.
Thank you, Simone. Thank you very much. Anessa,
I will have a, we can say, last word to it. I have to say, as I said before, the pressure should be stronger. The political and the legal pressure does exist. And we have the succession negotiations, reports, and funding probably conditionality. But we have to say that effectiveness in practice also depends on the local political will, institutional capacity. As I said, there is a need in supporting collaboration, especially on the regional level, because we have seen that certain environmental crimes have been going over the borders and as cross-border issues as well. And in many cases, this environmental protection remains like a strategy on paper rather than really priority that needs to be implemented. And in the end, to accent that one thing is actually very clear, that environmental crime is not a marginal issue here in the region. It is a systematic threat within our societies. It is not victimless as it's perceived within the region. The scale and profitability of the environmental crimes are, we can say, are rising, and they're showing a criminal market that is rivaling, we can say, traditional organized crime. The civil society, and I have to say the media, who is here present with as panelists, they're very important. And the collaboration between the prosecution, law enforcement, and media and civil society should be improved. It should be strengthened. And I think there is a lot of exchanging of data and information that can effectively combat environmental crime. So thank you again for everybody here who shared their knowledge, experiences, and thank you for participants that actually use their time to listen to us. And of course, you can reach out to us, and we are looking forward to future similar activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists as well. Thank you to all the participants. Thank you to Claudio for the technical support, and also all the colleagues that worked on the report. I ask you download it, you read it, and you reach out to us in case you have comments or questions. The Global Initiative will continue working on this issue, but also on other fields as well. And once again, thank you, and see you at another event. All the best.